Okay, here we go on part two. So, Hitler's released from jail in 1928 or 29, somewhere around there. And what happens? As I've told you, Adolf Hitler comes to power through the Nazi Party, through the Weimar Republic, through democratic, legal, non-violent means. Long story short here is they start off very small and they piecemeal and they work their way up as you read this while I'm giving you the lecture, and they eventually get more and more Nazi people elected into the German government. Now, I'm not about to try to explain it to you that there's a little bit different of how Europeans do their government and how Americans do. Okay, just suffice it to say that's it. And so Hitler is not elected himself per se, but his party is elected, and he is the leader of it. So finally, he's appointed by Paul von Hindenburg, a famous World War II general. World War I general. So don't get confused there. Hitler's not appointed. You can't be appointed in the German government unless you're first elected. So he is elected. And this raises him up into the German government as chancellor. Hindenburg is still above him. Hindenburg's an old man and just wants to die, which he does, and eventually. And the first thing the Nazis do is the Reichstag fire. They burn down, that's right, they burn down the Reichstag, which is the German government building, and they blame the Communist Party, and they outlaw communism in Germany. A big famous thing is the Enabling Act, right? What the Nazis do is they ask for 4 years of dictatorial powers. They say, hey, we get it, we are in a republic at the time, but we can't get anything done because republics, democracies, listen carefully, Americans, they can't get anything done. All they do is argue and fight. They never make decisions. Oh, sound familiar? And the German people say, ja, sure, 4? Why, you don't want 4? We'll give you 1,000 years. But they only want 4. So compare that to America. Imagine asking any president, even one you like, say it's Obama, say it's Trump, whoever you like, you're going to give them dictatorial powers? Americans, but no way. We don't have dictators. And then during that 4 years, what happens is Paul von Hindenburg dies, as you can see here. He hates Hitler, calls him the little corporal, the annoying little corporal. But he does die during this time, and Hitler abolishes immediately, a year later, abolishes the office of the president, and the chancellor is the sole ruler of Germany. I know a little bit about the SS, Himmler here. I'm going to, they start persecuting Jews right after that, which we'll get into later. So what the big difference in the German government is this. They do not seize all of the goods as the Soviets do, but they encourage, at times heavy-handedly, people to work with them to produce what they need to be productive for everyone. I'm pointing at the screen, but you can't see that. See Hitler in the beetle below? See right through the front windshield. Look through the front windshield and look up, and you'll see a guy's head standing there looking at Hitler. That is none other than Mr. Ferdinand Porsche. That's correct, just like the cars that drive around today. Porsche racing cars. It's not Porsche either, okay? It's Porsche. He is an ardent Nazi, a huge supporter of the Nazis, okay? But yet his cars still sell and all this, and that's great. Little Nazi car going around. And Hitler has an idea for a vehicle he wants to revitalize. He wants to make Germany great again. And one way of doing that is providing a car that everyone can afford, and it is the Volkswagen, the people's wagon. And it's made by Ferdinand Porsche. Okay? And again, understand that. Hopefully you do. It's a state-sponsored program. Porsche is an individual, a private company, and does it, but it's through state sponsors and subsidies that he's able to do it. Okay? First thing Hitler goes after that is the Treaty of Versailles, as we've talked about. He says it is too restrictive on Germany. It's holding us down. All of this must be overturned. We've already talked about this. The limited army, the demilitarized zone, and reparations. Okay? 1933, know this. Be sure there's a thing on the exam called Hitler's Path to War. There'll be about 10 or 12 questions on it. I would know them. Okay? 1933, he withdraws from the League of Nations. Okay? And we haven't really talked about it that much, but the League of Nations is formed after World War I. And it's basically like the United Nations today, to keep the peace. Now, we would kind of laugh today, and many Americans would say, yeah, that's what America needs to do, get out of the UN. But at this time, it's seen as a very aggressive move, showing that he's not going to listen to anyone. Next thing he does in 1935 is he declares the unequal rearmament clause of Versailles void. He gives a military draft. He creates a Luftwaffe, which is the Air Force. And the European powers protest. They say, you can't do this. It's all in writing in the contract that you sign. Hitler says, too bad. What are you going to do, start a war? And remember, what is the last thing Europeans want after World War I? You got it, another world war. And in 1935, Mussolini, again, Mussolini kind of leads the path in all this for being such a tool that he is, but the Italians invade Ethiopia and the Nazis support this. Now, if you're confused about that, what should a good person of the League of Nations do if their best friend invades someone? They should be the big brother and broker a deal and say, hey, you can't invade countries, you got to be nice. But he doesn't. Hitler says, well done, nice work. Okay? In 1936, he marches into the demilitarized Rhineland. This is clearly German territory, there's no doubt about it, but it's a violation of the Locarno and the Versailles Treaty. French soldiers are there. The best part of the story is the Germans, here they're on horses, but they also ride across on bikes with Mauser rifles on their back. Yeah. And the German commanders are told to bolt, leave at once if the French put up any sign of resistance. But do they? No, the French run. They're terrified. They're not ready to fight. Yeah, I may have told you this in another lecture, but I'll tell you again. Napoleon Bonaparte, eat your food, Tina, you fat lard. That was dynamite. Napoleon said, what is, the number one thing every commander needs more than anything else? Anybody? I won't give you time to Google it. The best thing a military commander can have on his side is luck. That's what he needs. Sure, you need weapons, you need tanks, you need all the modern stuff and the best weapons, but that's a given. Both sides have that. Usually they're prepared to battle. But what you need is luck. And Hitler, you couldn't agree more with Napoleon on that about this and Hitler. Hitler gets so extremely lucky. If the French had put up a fight, maybe none of World War II would have happened. Now, it's doubtful, but just kind of let your mind wander with that. Okay? The German commanders are going to run if they do. But again, this big word you keep seeing, appeasement. I've already discussed this map in another lecture. What Hitler's doing is, and he is correct in ways, he's only taking back what Germany had lost in World War I. This was all Germanic territory that was robbed and seized of them in the end of the war of World War I when they're blamed for the war, and they didn't start it. Austria did. Austria and Serbia. 1937, they take a year off. But by 1938, Hitler goes to Austria, his home country, and he annexed it. Now, a lot of people always argue that, that they have to invade Austria. No, they don't invade Austria. The Austrians are like, we'd love to be part of Germany, right? And they sign up to be Germans. Now, before you crucify the Austrians, because the Dutch are going to do the same thing, you must remember they're Germanic people. And if they know the Germanic people are going to rule the continent, they're probably going to sign up with them, okay? So 1938, be sure to know that, seizure of Austria. This picture's so golden and beautiful, I just don't have time to tell you. It was taken on my honeymoon on a train between Italy and Austria with two guys that I met right here, Austrians. And for this class, I'll tell you this, they were the best example of nationalism outside of the United States I've ever seen. And yes, I will use their accents. If you get upset with that, I'm sorry. They have this great, perfect Austrian accent, and they just, what is das? This beer? It's no good. Best beer in the world? Austrian beer, ja. And everything, best place in the world? Austria, ja. Just everything. And it was so cool as an American to be on the other end of the stick. Does everybody understand? Because usually it's Americans saying that. America's the best. America's got this. And it was so cool to see another side of it. Of course, on my honeymoon, my wife was sleeping back in the car. She was tired from traveling around. I went to the bar car to have a drink, and I met these two guys. And it was just one of the best experiences of my life. And it was really cool to see another side of it. And the coolest part was they loved us, and they talked to us for like hours. And finally, we said, we didn't think people liked Americans. This is in 2009. Why do you guys like Americans? They said, Schwarzenegger, ja, Schwarzenegger. Right? Our governor of California at the time was an Austrian, Arnold Schwarzenegger. So they were very happy, and they loved America because, California mainly, because Arnold, the governor, was Austrian. There you go. Look at that. Buy the best. BMW, Volvo, Audi, Mercedes, BMW, whatever, Volkswagen and Porsche. They all work with the Nazis. In September of 1938, the fall of 1938, Hitler moves into what's known as the Sudetenland. I'm not going to go back to a map, but you could go back to that map if you need to, and you'll see that it is the northern borders of the southern part of Germany that's taken from Germany after World War I to create Czechoslovakia. Ferdinand Porsche comes from this area, the Sudetenland. There are a high group of minorities of Germans that live in it, and they say that, hey, we want to be part of Germany. We're part of Germany. And historically, they have been part of Germany. And so Hitler seizes it. Again, What do the European powers do? They say, we got to call a meeting in Munich. We've got to do all this. War is inevitable. You've broken this pact. But what really happens is the rest of the world, this is Neville Chamberlain on the left. You can see Hitler thumbing his nose at the bottom. They give in and they meet Hitler's demands. They say, hey, it's logical. These are German people. This is German territory. We just took it from them to create Czechoslovakia, the Czechs and the Slovaks. And they threw them, never put that one together, did you? Czechoslovakia, the Czechs and Slovaks. And so this is a pivotal moment in world history right here. The Munich Conference, it proves to Hitler that the West is weak, that democracies will not stand up to him, and it proves to the rest of the world, tons of people, tons of Saddam Hussein, everyone have been compared to the Munich Conference. That if you let a dictator push you around, you're always going to have war on the other end. So sometimes we have preemptive wars instead of that. The Munich Conference, don't forget about it. There you go. Hitler, Time Man of the Year in 1938. So what happens finally in the end? 1939, the Nazis sign a pact with the Russians known as the Nazi-Soviet Pact. If you look in the middle there, the top picture, the guy looking down with glasses on, and a great, great story of a guy named, I call him Yuri, it's his nickname, it's not his real name, but I can't pronounce it, Molotov. Molotov. And that's where we get the word Molotov cocktails, because he lies to the Finns and tells the Finns that they won't invade, and 3 months later the Russians invade Finland. The Finns are unprepared and they toss gasoline-lit bombs at the Russians, and they nickname them Molotov cocktails. But what's worse than anything else, never going with the Sicilian when death is on the line, never get involved with a two-front war. War on your left, a war on your right. Who do you commit? Where do you commit troops? How do you fight it? You can't do it. And he knows that. Hitler knows he wants to invade Western Europe, so he signs a pact with Stalin, whom he hates, but to agree. And basically what it says is, when we invade Poland, we won't go to war, the Germans and the Russians, and we'll divide it up. Okay? Oh, there's my little joke, too. Can you see Stalin in the background with his little Austin Powers outfit on? See Stalin standing back there? And that's where Mike Myers gets that from. It's pretty funny stuff. And on September 1st, 1939, the Germans do launch an invasion of Poland. It's a staged attack. You look it up if you want how it's done. And German airplanes smash into Poland from 3 sides. And World War II has begun. Okay? I will provide a propagandistic casus belli. Its credibility doesn't matter. The victor will not be asked whether he had weapons of mass destruction. I mean, told the truth. Adolf Hitler. Okay? So remember, what happens here in this time of when totalitarian governments come to power, be sure to know why they do, is everyone basically ignores Hitler for the most part. Why is that? They see Stalin as the bigger threat. It's pretty simple. Stalin has upset the world as they see it. He's no longer a capitalist. Okay, he's now a communist. And he no longer has democracy or capitalism in his world. And they think he's going to be the one that upsets the world the most. But that's going to be after World War II and the Cold War. So everyone's kind of misled, and they look and they see the Soviet Union as the great danger, but Stalin's really doing nothing. And it's Hitler that's able, again, Napoleon, luck. He's able to sneak by and do this. Take a look at that map. I mean, it's it's pretty hilarious. Parliamentary, that would be us, democracies. Look who's going to win this war. Turkey sides with Germany almost as soon as the war starts. Okay? I mean, we got Ronaldo's left foot in Portugal. Stalin invades Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, so those are all gone. Norway, Sweden, and Finland have all the ice in the world that we want if we want to freeze the Nazis out or give them snow cones. Okay? I mean, we got Great Britain, France, and Ireland. That's it. The side we join, okay? Very interesting how that comes about. All right. That's it for that. Bye-bye.